It is Monday, July 19th, 2021. I'll call the regular city council meeting of the city of Columbia to order. A roll call.
Nemitz.
Here.
Wrestler.
Here.
Hoop.
Here.
Holcamp.
Here.
Martins. Here. Riddle. Here. Garmer.
Here.
Corey.
Here. I'll ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't have any proclamations or presentations at this time. At this time, is public input portion of the city council meeting. Anybody has any public input, if you'd step forward to the podium. Okay. Does any alderman have any comments or announcements to make? Department heads?
Good evening, Mayor. I just wanted to give the council a brief update on and tentatively planning for the next meeting on August 2nd for the next time you'll be entertaining that item. You're all aware of the grant that the city was instrumental in receiving, well, that was granted for the, for Intertel, for the construction of the second building at 11 South. I know some of you are aware there's been some ongoing trying to get the grant modified due to the fact that the company had been sold before the project had been completed. So we're just having to iron out the paperwork there. And we have actually been back in contact with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. We've submitted a finalized grant modification request, and the next thing that will be going is we'll just need to replace the participation agreement that we originally signed with one for the new company. So everything should be back on track with that one within the next week or two. And then finally, I wanted to let you know that the administrative review hearing that council had requested for the front yard variance for the Lepo case, that will be on during the August 2nd council meeting. Just a heads up on that as well. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other department directors? Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda.
There are 5 items on the consent agenda tonight. The first item is a motion to approve minutes of the July 6, 2021 regular city council meeting. The second item is a motion to approve the closed session minutes of the July 6, 2021 regular city council meeting. The third item is a motion to approve payment of vouchers for the period of June 26, 2021 through July 15, 2021 in the amount of $436,641.45. The fourth item is a resolution number 2021-14 approving an amendment to the bylaws of the City of Columbia Park and Recreation Advisory Board. And the fifth and final item is a motion to approve a special event permit application for Historic Main Street Columbia Association's Taste of Columbia event on August 7th, 2021.
Thank you, sir. Are there any items that you all would wish to pull from the consent agenda? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as read? Alderman Martins? Alderman Holcamp? Roll call.
Nemitz.
Yes.
Wrestler. Hoop.
Yes.
Holcamp.
Yes.
Martins. Yes. Riddle. Yes. Garmer.
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Next, we're going to move to, yes,
Mayor,
Alderman
just before
Demus.
we move on, that new format for the vouchers makes it, I think, really easy to
Yes.
read and interpret.
I
and
agree.
It really, according to departments and according to funds, it makes it very, very easy to read, I think. So I
I-
appreciate that. I don't know if it was a combined effort or what, but
That is courtesy of our new software package, Tyler Technologies.
it's
I
great.
I agree on that
It's
because
great.
when I first came on board, I couldn't make out where the money was coming from and things like that. And then now I can read which department, so.
You
it's-
can, it just took a
It's very
lot longer
nice.
to decipher.
The department codes on one hand, and you kept the general
No.
ledger on the other hand, you were going through there?
Is he making fun of me?
You didn't do that?
I did do that. It was very time consuming. This is a whole lot easier now, and I don't have to memorize the codes either, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, we're going to move to unfinished business. Item 1, J1, is motion to approve a professional service agreement with Economic Development Resources, LLC, to study an area adjoining South Main Street for tax increment financing and business district eligibility. Can we get a motion on that? Alderman Martins?
I'll second, Mayor.
Roll call?
Nemitz,
Yes,
Wrestler,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Holcamp,
Yes.
Martins. Yes. Riddle. Yes. Garmer,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Next item is J2, motion providing concurrence with Liquor Commissioner's moratorium on the issuance of A1 and A2 liquor license until such time as the liquor code is updated.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, what this is, obviously, the council at the last city council meeting held a discussion on possibly limiting the number of the quote-unquote gaming parlors, even though we do not have that as a use in our zoning code or business code. I think we all know what we're referring to whenever we say gaming parlor. Following the discussion at that meeting, where it was directed to staff that we would work on bringing some amendments to the council for consideration at a later date, Columbia Market actually went live with video gaming that following day. Additionally, there was another application that was received for Main Street location for a video gaming establishment. With that in mind, after discussing it at the staff level, along with Mayor Hill, the decision was made by the Liquor Commissioner with concurrence of staff that it would be appropriate to implement a moratorium on the issuance of A1 or A2 liquor licenses within the city. Those are the two liquor license classifications that are required by the city for video gaming, and the moratorium would be in place until such time as the council reviews additional regulations as directed. What we would be looking for this evening would be a motion from the council concurring with the Liquor Commissioner's moratorium. That way, if there is any kind of challenge, that is something that would be defensible in a courtroom.
Doug, is there a timetable to do this liquor code update, or is this just?
I anticipate that we will have something on the August 2nd agenda for discussion.
Okay, so it's just a short period of time until, okay, that's fine.
And this, I'll just comment, this isn't something unusual if you, it's happening all over the state of Illinois. The gaming industry has just exploded. They're everywhere. You talk to mayors throughout the state of Illinois, and they've all issued moratoriums on gaming just because they're literally popping up in every store, every corner of the street. So it's something that I felt was necessary with the vision for Columbia and not seeing gaming in every single establishment in this town, so.
I'll go ahead and make that motion, Mr. Mayor, providing concurrence with Liquor Commissioner's moratorium on the issuance of the A1 and A2 liquor licenses until such time as the code's updated.
Thank you, Mr. Garmer. Can we get a second? Mr. Holcamp, can we get roll call?
Nemitz,
yes,
Wrestler.
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Holcamp,
Yes,
Martins. Yes. Riddle. Yes. Garmer,
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is item J3. This is a discussion of the Ogle Estates subdivision preliminary plat. Mr. Dunkey?
Yes, sir. I'll just give a brief presentation here since this is something most of you have seen before. This is a continuation of the ongoing development of Ogle Estates subdivision. I won't go into the back history, just suffice it to say that the preliminary subdivision approval was scheduled for December 14th. After it was submitted on November 13th. And leading up to the commission date, we had a situation where City Hall was closed for 2 weeks due to COVID restrictions, so we didn't get the full opportunity to review like we normally did. And rather than cancel the meeting, I believe, or postpone the item, we decided that it would probably be best to go ahead and move forward and give the applicant the opportunity to address any unaddressed items before council would approve it. And we did that, and it was presented to City Council on February 16th, however, only for discussion. We began working and went back and forth on a number of revisions, and this we're on the fifth revision now, and there's been a substantive enough number of revisions made that it was necessary to go back to Plan Commission per the guidance of the subdivision code. So at this point, we've reviewed everything very well, and the Plan Commission has reconsidered it and on July 12th, and they did recommend approval, subject to providing a copy of the executed lake maintenance agreement. As you may recall, the lake that was originally on the entire piece of property, the way the property got parceled out when it was sold, the lake was going to the most of the lake was going to the original owner as far as on their property. But it still serves an important drainage role for the subdivision, so the lake maintenance agreement basically was to substitute, since that lot is not in the subdivision, to provide the same guarantees to the city and to the public that the lake will be maintained, regardless of the fact that it is not under subdivision control. We have received the executed agreement and all other required documentation, and the subdivision plat is now in compliance with the subdivision code, and all requirements of the subdivision code are satisfied. That being said, because of the intricacies of the drainage in that area, staff is going to have the improvement plans to a third-party review just to double-check all of the way it's designed and make sure it will handle the calculations for all the drainage that were thrown at it. That has no bearing on the subdivision plat. That's actually the actual design of the infrastructure that will, and the subdivision, the streets, the grading, all the, the piping, everything. So it's part of that process. So at this time, the Plan Commission and the city staff is recommending approval based on that, with the understanding that if review of the improvement plans do necessitate rearranging things to where it does change the plat, the applicant understands that it may have to go back for another round of approval if it's necessitated. But that's not expected that anything would change to that degree. It's primarily the design that's anticipated. So at any rate, all of the supporting materials for the previous presentations and the regarding this action are attached, including the preliminary plat and I would be happy to stand for any questions you may have.
Scott, why do we approve it before the third party review? Why do we approve it before then?
Because the plat meets the requirements, we have to approve it. That's the reason why we're trying to get it right for the improvement plan. And we're not saying there's anything wrong with it, we're just getting an extra set of eyes on it because it's gone through a number of revisions in the last 6 months or so. Yeah, 6 or 8 months. And more than anything, it's about the constructability and just making sure that the actual infrastructure that's proposed will be able to handle all the drainage needs of it. Not the lot design or the grading or anything. All of that is compliant.
I know Lot 1 was a concern initially, it still is for me. And I have calls right now and emails on my computer from people in my ward and out of my ward where drainage are considered, and those were things that were done years ago, and now we have to figure out how to remedy them. So I just don't want to take any chances on approving something that's going to come back to us later on, and then we don't really have an ability to fix it.
That's exactly why it's being done with the improvement plans, so that they, if they don't get approved, they can't go under construction.
But a whole lot of time has already been invested.
Exactly. And keep in mind too, when it goes out to third-party review, that's not a city cost, that gets invoiced to the applicant as well.
Thank you.
Scott, so according to now, the way this sits, the engineering, the drainage goes into the lake, it comes out the spillway pipe, it goes into the creek, and then it goes into the creek that crosses it over by Creekside Park, I think it is. Is that right, Chris? Yeah. So the theory is that engineering proposed that the runoff from development on this new additional housing is going to overflow that existing drainage, and it can handle the capacity? Or is there somewhere in here that I don't see retention or detention areas?
There's a detention area.
On the
at
backside of the dam?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what that is
On
over there.
on the downstream side.
Okay, so that's supposed to have been spec'd out to handle any potential, whatever heavy downfalls come and stuff like that.
Yes, yes. Based on the calculations we were provided.
Right.
Because there's a fair amount of manipulation, like I said, staff just felt that it was a good idea to get a third party to review to make sure that, and this is not uncommon. A third party review happens fairly frequently. As a matter of fact, it used to happen with every case.
So they'll check the specs and the layout here. to make
They'll
sure
check the
that-
calculations and they'll check the design and make sure everything matches and make sure it does what they say they're going to do. That's really the extent of it.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Scott. Question on the detention basin. Let's say a detention basin gets out of control, cattails, willows, all this stuff. Who's responsible to take care of that, and what guarantees do we have that it will be taken care of?
Under the current code,
Under
the
the,
homeowners association would be.
Okay.
There are situations in the past where that was not the way it was done before it was put into the code, but the way we do things today under the code, the homeowners association would be responsible for that.
we don't have any input to the bylaws of the homeowners association, do we?
We do receive a copy of it.
But that doesn't, I mean, how can we be assured that this isn't going to be a willow?
It's, if you'll note, when you approve the plat, there's a drainage disclaimer on there that says it's their responsibility to maintain it. We receive as dedication all of the infrastructure other than what's in the common ground, and they're responsible for making sure the common ground drainage and maintenance, as well as the other piping and everything that goes to it and any underground or open ditches and whatnot. That's their responsibility to make sure it functions effectively. And if not, and if there are any problems, the way that works out too, there is a remedy for the city to be able to go in And then if we, for example, if, let's say a homeowners association either was not doing their job or they were not a very active homeowners association and they were not up on dues and did not have a good rainy day fund or whatnot, and they didn't have the financial resources to actually fix an ongoing problem, the city does have the right after notice to go in and fix it and then invoice the property owners for that, those.
The individual owners?
Yes.
Because from day one, I'm thinking it's going to work great. You know, I'm worried about years 10, you know. So I just didn't know that the city could do that. That's good to know.
That is one of our one of the our outs on making sure things do get done, so that we do have the opportunity to fix it so that people outside of the subdivision aren't also affected.
Okay, thank you.
And this is stated on the plat itself? This will be stated?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
Because that's what happens is the properties change ownership, and then the new owners don't realize what they're responsible for. And then the city comes in and remediates the problem, and they're charged, and then we have more upset citizens. You know, it's, if you go through this process a few times, then you realize that this is what happens. And I just want to prevent those things from happening.
yeah, not only is it on the plat, but that is the reason why we do check the restrictive covenants and indentures and whatnot to make sure that it does, that they are accounting for that responsibility as well.
Thank you.
Hey, Scott, question, please. So, like you said, there's been several iterations of this, right? I remember from the villas to, I think there was less houses or something like that. And now we're at this. And I'm trying to remember, was the drainage solution or proposal the same, or has it changed, morphed at all? It's been the same consistently throughout, or?
No, that's one of the things that's, I mean, the drainage has been the big change.
Right.
Part of it, getting back to Alderman Nemitz's original comment, that Lot 1, they're now showing something that we think will work.
Okay.
But it does require some pretty significant earthwork and potentially encroaching into the lake as well. So we just want to make sure that gets reviewed very well by a specialist with the drainage, on the drainage side of things, to make sure that they see what the developer's engineer is telling us and what the city engineer is seeing on it. So, and if there's anything amiss, that's when we'll take a look at it and see, well, it's not going to do this based on our review, so we need to account for that and change the design a little bit.
And then what's the turnaround for the contractor to look at this, or the third party, and get back to us?
We just have to wait till we receive the improvement plans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question for our city attorney. Terry, I know HOA and, you know, Scott has explained that for us. At what point, though, does that statement come back to say, but the city approved this, they're responsible?
No. No, it's just because the city approves something doesn't make them responsible for it. You know, you approve things every day, and it doesn't make you responsible for it. That, it doesn't, you know, the law doesn't work that way. You know, you approve things to show you're doing your best you can for your citizens, to make sure quality is being done around here. But that doesn't mean that you're responsible if something goes wrong. You'd have to be grossly negligent or willful and wanton activity. That's what the Tort Reform Act has. You have to be guilty of gross negligence or willful and wanton conduct before they can even begin to come after you.
I know we've talked about rain events, we've talked about things. Chris, you've made the statement that we have had some unusual ones in the past 5 to even 10 years, what we don't normally have. And I know that upsets citizens, and that upsets them when they see it on their property, and it kind of goes on. And I know I'm beating this to death here, but I just don't want to wind up in some of the predicaments that we've spent the last couple of decades trying to remedy. I don't want to create anything else that's going to fall under that category. And that's not development, that's not the layout, that's not anything. Drainage in that northeast area of the city, and we're moving towards St. Clair County, and we're moving up in that area, we're hitting karst, we're running into slopes and everything else. And water is gonna be probably the main issue in that area. And I just wanna tread lightly when we do this to make sure that things function as they should. And that's it. I'm done. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions to Mr. Donahue? Okay. All right, the next item is J4. Discussion of the proposed annexation in R2 one-family dwelling district zoning of 137.91 acres, tract of land in unincorporated Monroe and St. Clair counties for the proposed Timber Rock Estate subdivision. And Mr. Donahue.
Yes. So this is one many of you have seen before as well. The former Fairfield Country Club located on Columbia Quarry Road. It's just south of Bluffside. Owner-developer Timber Rock LLC is proposing to construct an 86-lot subdivision zoned R2. You are aware that it is in unincorporated territory of both Monroe and St. Clair County. Because you had approved the annexation agreement already. Back in September, Columbia Plan Commission held the public hearing regarding the annexation agreement and then recommended approval, after which the City Council approved that agreement on October 19th, 2020. And as you may recall, we brought that back for just a quick amendment on February 1 of this year. There was no changes in the terms. If you remember, the owner went ahead and closed on the property after the annexation agreement was approved. Originally, because it was the parcels were under different ownership, those owners were required to sign as well. So all we did at that time of that amendment was just remove the requirement for everyone else to sign, since at that point he was the sole owner. So that's the reason for that minor amendment to the annexation agreement. The petition for annexation was submitted within the 90 days of the stated in the annexation agreement. We received that on April 27th. There was a public hearing held on July 12th for the annexation and R2 zoning. Plan Commission did recommend approval per the staff report. And the findings are as follows. The previous findings adopted by the Plan Commission still apply. So this is from the Plan Commission staff report. And they found that the annexation, the subdivision concept plan, and the R2 zoning are consistent with the City of Columbia 2020 master plan. They are designed in a manner that's sensitive to the environmental conditions of the site, beneficial to the community in providing a logical expansion of the city's utility and transportation systems into currently unserved areas, and a reasonable means of furthering the developer's vision for the development while minimizing negative impacts to surrounding properties. And because the executed annexation agreement and previous findings, the city is obligated to approve the requested annexation in R2 zoning. I will note that there were two individuals who spoke at the public hearing. One was Mr. Roy, the Highway Commissioner for Sugarloaf Township, just expressing comments about the need to coordinate since the city will be annexing the Columbia Quarry Road comes along with the annexation by state law. So we'll be taking over the road, and knowing that there were a few other two other annexations, and one of our own property that we annexed last month, and then the Bluff Ridge, which is ongoing. He just stressed the need to coordinate on the transition of duties as the city moves forward with potentially impacting other of their, the Sugarloaf Township's roadways. And then the other comment was neighboring property owner, the Walbachers, they were represented by their attorney, Mr. Evans. And they were expressed some drainage concerns and just wanted to make sure that the site was being designed so that the drainage is going inwards. And I did offer to, as we've done in the past with Mr. Walbacher, did offer to sit down with him and go over the preliminary plat once it's received, to show him the way the developer is planning on handling the drainage. So I believe that covers everything at hand, but once again, I will be glad to stay available for any questions you may have.
Alderman Demuth?
Mayor, Scott, would you, for the aldermen that weren't seated at the time of this agreement, would you just restate the variances on this particular development that were agreed to?
Yes, let me go to that agreement. And I will cover those for you very briefly.
I couldn't find them.
So regarding annexation and zoning, the city did agree to adopt an ordinance annexing the subject property under R2 one-family zoning districts. Variation, and the primary one is he's doing enhanced masonry standards, and in return, he's asking to have a larger accessory building size on his larger lots. What he envisioned was something that would allow people to a large enough accessory structure or detached garage, however they'd like to use it, to be able to store their play toys, their RVs, he's looking at, he's going to be building some pretty exclusive homes on very large lots, and he just felt that's what would be wanted, so that is what the city agreed to under the, they would be allowed to, so there's not going to be any accessory buildings allowed in the, what he's calling the villa lots, which are really, those are actually very large lots still. Those are still R2 zoned lots, so they're still half-acre lots. But those would have no accessory buildings allowed. And then the ones that are not the villa lots, which are the two kind of center sections, if you look at the concept plan, there's like two islands where there's a little, where there's homes clustered around. The remainder of them would be allowed, the accessory buildings, but with some beefed up provisions. They would only be allowed one accessory structure, not multiple. So that will cut down on any of that. But in other words, the intent is that it would look like the house. That's essentially the way that it was written up. It'll look like the house, and it will be required masonry up to at least 3 feet above finish grade. So then the other one was adjusting the minimum floor area a little bit, and just on the garden villa, those garden villa lots, the same ones we just discussed, to 1,400 square feet in those lots alone. The rest of them shall have the minimum gross area of 1,800 square feet, which I doubt any of them will be that small, to be honest with you. That's it on the variances. Did I mention, though, that they're beefing up the masonry standards on the homes as well?
Yes.
Okay.
You did.
Okay.
And another question that came up at that time when the council viewed it, I think, Scott, was that we talked about alternate transportation, and I know you referred to the sidewalks requirements within the subdivision as usual. And the only thing I wanted to ask about is, since this borders Quarry, is there no consideration there whatsoever with regard to that? And then I go
Yes.
back to think of Quarry now as it passes Gatorn Village and Gatorn Estates, and I look at Gall Road, which has nothing, and all those developments were put out there. And I know it seems like far in the future, but is there, I guess a provision would have had to be in the annexation agreement for something along Quarry?
Yeah, yes, we specifically exempted him from putting sidewalks along
Right.
Quarry because he agreed to do a public access easement over the common ground that will have the walking trails, so the public will have a permanent easement to be able to use the walking trails in the development.
And that's what I couldn't find, and that's what I wasn't clear on. And would you just
Yes.
restate that again for me, please, Scott?
Yes, I shall. Here, I'll just read it. So the owner or developer will be exempted from improving Columbia Quarry Road to city standards at this time, and sidewalks are included in the exemption. We did note that city does reserve the right to request a mutually agreeable amount to be contributed toward improvements, though, to Columbia Quarry Road. So we will, he's going to work up cost estimates for recommendation on that one.
Escrow then, like we've done on other developments?
That was the intent, yes, ma'am.
Okay, but we don't know the amount of that yet?
Not as of yet. We had an early cost estimate, but that's not going to apply anymore because prices are higher than that. So we'll have them recalculate that before it goes to approval.
And I don't know if everybody remembered that or not, but with the Explore Columbia plan, and I know it doesn't extend that far, but I mean, alternate transportation is always something that we've been trying to be really cognizant of the last 20 years, and that's why I'm wondering, the school does have property out there. Eventually, things are going to move out that way, and again,
Right.
a long time ago, it seemed like Gall Road, those developments, they would never come, and now they're all out there, and the improvements aren't here.
Right.
So it's just something that I want to make sure we provide for the future.
And to answer the second part of your question would be that in lieu of providing the sidewalk along Columbia Quarry, the owner and developer will provide an alternate sidewalk routed through the subject property that serves the same general purpose, so you can still get through and around. But there's also a 12-acre common ground developed with that'll be developed with recreational paths, and the owner and developer will provide a public access easement to those recreational paths. So once again, there'll be an extra 12 acres of permanent recreational space for the community on top of what we otherwise would have. And sidewalks will be provided elsewhere throughout in accordance with code, so on both sides of the street throughout the rest of the development.
I appreciate you taking the time to clarify that.
Yes,
Thanks,
ma'am,
Scott.
glad to.
Alderman Rustler?
Scott, also to refresh their memory in that, it was talked about, and I just referenced in your memo of findings and that, but the water, we were going to run the water to the edge of the property. They're responsible for running it through the property.
Correct.
And they're supposed to have their own sanitation. And the reference in there talks about if they can't get proper sanitation due to county restrictions, that we will provide sanitation to them. And there was talk about needing a pumping station out there if we ever had to deal with that.
We are not providing the sanitation to them. No, sir.
Up
We are
to.
providing the
Don't you
water.
mean Up to,
We're not even providing it up to. We're doing the first stage. Remember the agreement or the presentation Chris and I made a couple weeks
last
ago?
meeting?
Yes, all the city is looking to do is put in the pumping portion of that. Now, if the council wants to participate in funding for expanding beyond that point, that's going to be council's decision as far as, looking at the individual developments to see if you want to work with do any cost sharing with the developers on any extension. That's going to be council's call. That was deliberately left out of the agreement because his intent was to serve it with private septic, and staff always had
Yeah.
this reservation thinking we didn't think that was going to fly with the health department. And we were right. Once we once we sat down with, we actually sat down with the developer, Mr. Vogt, as well as both county health departments, and figured out everything that would have to happen. So they're not going to have private septic. It's just neither county would approve that. So they are going to be served with public sewer.
So the
But
cost,
it's going to be their responsibility to, I mean, we're going to facilitate because we've got numerous property owners who are needing this in order to do anything with their property, and they're all banging on our doors. So, you know, that's the reason why we were why we presented it the way we did, so we can address the most important aspect of the whole, of serving that area, that pumping situation, and then work with them to figure out how to get it further along to each of their properties.
so their sanitation, their sewer will need a pumping station then, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so between the time that this gets approved, they start building things and that, we have to go ahead and get a pumping station put in out there to get their sewer taken care of.
Well, they're going to be they're going to be working on our time frame on that. I mean,
Okay. So I mean-
the city council's got some, you know, we're going to have to work together as staff to bring you some options to look at on how, you know, how are we going to make sure and
No
get this
cost
done.
sharing in that. That's our responsibility to go ahead and, because it'll facilitate others in the future anyway, but it's how we're going to fund a pumping station so they can operate. So if we can't find funding for just off the top, 5 years, they don't build for 5 years?
When we covered the numbers for you, that just was to give you an idea of how we would gather the costs. We did not look in the cost, what the sources of funding would be yet. We're getting ready to
Everything's on the
reconvene.
table, Mark.
Huh?
Everything's on the table.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not trying to be elusive. I'm just saying we haven't locked into anything.
Okay. Well, that was
And
my
you'll
concern
still
that-
be presented the options. We're still figuring those options out for what's available for you, and then you can make those
That's what I mean.
decisions.
So approving this, I'm not locked into, hey, we got to put in a $500,000 pumping station out there by next year.
That's
That-
the
correct.
question.
Yeah.
Correct. There you go.
Okay.
Any other from the council? No? Okay. Yes, sir?
Mr. Mayor, if I may have.
Yes, please, come to the podium and state your name, please.
My name is Paul Evans, and I am an attorney. I represent the Walbacher family, specifically their LLC, Rock House LLC. I always thank everyone serving here, your volunteers. I don't want to take up your time, but your discussions are prescient and they're right on the point. It's best to know ahead of time what some of your challenges are going to be, and that is simply what we're introducing now ahead of time. What may be easiest is you all have presented an Exhibit B, and I realize these are plats, these are going to change, they're ideas, but there is two concrete issues out there already existing. If you're looking at Exhibit B in the lower right corner, specifically pertaining to lots 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, which is this area here. There's a white area. About 19 years ago, there was cost sharing between various government entities and the owners, including my clients. And there was a berm put up because the erosion problems were already significant. That berm had a drainage system, is underground piping, and that's not working out there now. The property owners and the operators, the farmers, my clients, there's already where pipes join together, there's breakages, soils being sucked in. Any increase in water runoff is going to exacerbate the existing problem. So we know that. Further up that line, that boundary, pertaining to lots 9, 10, 11, 12, that was never resolved with engineering and planning those many years ago. There's significant erosion taking place there. So with this much more impervious surfaces being created, there's two known problems. They're going to increase the engineering really needs to address that. And I recognize that's going to be in the final plat and the approval, but I just want to introduce this idea to all of you now, so it doesn't come as a surprise. And I would suggest to you that this is going to be a significant issue. My clients are downhill. In Illinois, we are bound to accept water in its natural phases. We are not bound to accept water when it's been increased, concentrated, sped up, diverted. So that's why we are watching closely. The other thing is some of this suggests that the sinkholes out there may be used for detention and retention purposes. Nobody knows where that water may go someday. And you're right next to IDNR. And Council Member Nemitz, you were exactly on in your observations on the prior presentation of the issues that are coming with the Ogles project. This is another one waiting for you to happen. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for your service. And that's what we're simply here monitoring and providing an educational concern about how we think there's going to be significant drainage issues out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. All right. Any other questions on the Timber Rock? Okay. Next item, we're going to, item 5 is resolution number 2021-15. It's approving a jurisdictional transfer agreement with Monroe County and authorizing and directing the mayor to execute said agreement. Mr. Smith?
Good evening. For some of the new people, we had an agreement with Monroe County, as well as the developer of the second building. In the effort, we applied for a grant, and we all jointly went together to help fund and pay for improvements to DD Road and Old Sandbank. As a result of the county's participation, which is not unusual, they asked that after the improvement be made, that we would basically take over the road and the maintenance, and that's what was in the agreement. It also included sandbank between Bluff Road, partially up the hill, that was technically still in their jurisdiction. So the improvement has been completed. Now we're at the point to execute the joint agreement to transfer the maintenance and ownership of the roads. And this still will have, even if we approve it, this still has to go to IDOT for their final review and approval, so there could be some tweaks. But the county's already approved it. Now it's our turn, and then it'll be sent to IDOT for their review and approval.
Motion?
Can we make
Also
a motion?
move, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Nemitz, Mr. Corey, roll call.
Nemitz,
Yes.
Wrestler,
Yes.
Hook,
Yes.
Holcamp,
Yes.
Martins. Yes. Riddle, Garmer,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Okay. Next item is new business. Motion to approve appointments of Joseph Roach and Gary Craig as full-time police officers. Have Chief Don John come up and talk about the new appointments.
We're hoping to hopefully finally get up to full staff. Since Captain Heine and I've been here 17 years, we've never, ever been up to full, so we're getting there. Mr. Roach is currently a Springfield, Illinois police officer. He's got about 2 years of experience. He wants to come here. Luke Moravec, our officer here, knew him well as Luke worked in Sangamon County, which is up in Springfield area. And Officer Gary Craig is with Cahokia, has been there about 14 years. Lives in Columbia, is raising his family here in Columbia, and there's a lot of stuff going in Cahokia, so he's wanting to work for us, so we're happy to have both of them. So if you guys have any questions, just let me know. But
Any questions to Chief Don John? Okay. Can we get a motion to approve the appointments of Joseph Roach and Gary Craig as full-time Columbia police officers? Alderman Hoop? Alderman Riddle, second. Roll call.
Nemitz,
Yes.
Wrestler,
Yes.
Hook,
Yes.
Holcamp,
Yes.
Martins. Yes. Riddle. Yes. Garmer,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Okay, next item, new business. K2 is resolution number 2021-16, supporting the City of Columbia's application to the Illinois Department of Natural Resources for an open spaces land acquisition and development grant for developing and constructing Creekside Park Trail project in the City of Columbia, Illinois. Mr. Smith, back up to the podium.
Yeah, basically, DNR has opened up another round of funding due by September 1st, and we would like to apply for the Creekside Park Trail, kind of as a phase one for that development. And we'd like to have the council support to go ahead and take care of that.
Any discussion?
No.
No? Can we?
Chris, question.
Yeah.
Is this the reapplication of the one that we had to just close down?
Yes.
It's a partial, yeah. The other one was a much larger endeavor. This is just taking a phase approach to it. It will take 6 to 8 months for an approval to find out, so, and then when the clock starts, we have within 2 years to build it if we
And
get funding.
we talked about the small bites being probably better at this time because we can,
Yeah, I mean,
more
one would
sure.
think since we had the overall grant approved, that hopefully they would approve a phase, but again, it's based on who applies, what the competition level is, and, you know, we have to coordinate with the grant counselor again. I will pick his brain to see if there's other things we can tweak to maybe make it a little more attractive. But again, it's a competitive grant, and you just don't know who's all, they haven't even announced how much money's available. But they did say we need to apply by September 1st.
Chris, where does Creekside Park Trail go?
From Rick Road, and it connects to the Jimino Trail.
Okay.
Basically, it goes the length of the creek within Creekside Park, which is, I don't know, half mile, 3/4 mile. But it would include the bridge. There'd be a logical termini. It'd be go from the Jimino Trail to Rick Road. Probably also include sidewalk to get to Creekside Park, because again, they have no way to get to the trail without going down Rick
And it'll
Road.
be
So
a bridge across the gully
there'll be a
there, the
bridge
creek.
across. And again, we already had everything approved and permitted by the regulatory agencies, and then we got the wheels taken out from underneath us.
You're not going to put it through the lake, are you?
No.
No, no.
I mean, a bridge over. Okay, thanks.
Can we get a motion?
I'll be happy to make that
Yes.
motion, Mayor.
Alderman Nemitz, Alderman Hook, roll call.
Nemitz,
Yes.
Wrestler. Hoop,
Yes.
Holcamp,
Yes.
Martins. Riddle. Garmer,
yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to, this discussion will be 5 ILCS 122C5, purchase or lease of real property for use of the public body. And item 2 in closed session will be 5 ILCS 122C11, pending or probable litigation. Do we get a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, second by Mr. Martins. Roll call.
Nemitz,
Yes.
Wrestler. Hoop,
Yes.
Holcamp,
Yes.
Martins. Riddle. Garmer,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.